Hey everyone, welcome back. So in this video, we're going to discuss about handling drop-down values. In a web page, we often, come through, come across drop-downs elements, and we need to know how we can, handle using WebdriverIO. So let's get into. Now, I've taken the sample website where there are some different type of drop-down. We have one drop-down here, skills, country, select country, and then date of birth. Now, by looking, it looks all same, just a drop-down, but it differs. So what happens? Most of the drop down will have something called, so if you right click and inspect it, it starts with the select tag, and then you'll have options and the values that you need to select. So this, if you have this kind of drop down, there is a very easy way to handle this. And there are some methods available in WebdriverIO which you can use that we are going to see. Then there are some drop downs, which is one is example is this for the selection of country. This does not have here any select tag for this. How you can handle this, right? Because we don't have, there is one here, but this is an hidden, so it is not visible. So your visible element is for this particular drop down is this. So what you have to do, you have to click on here, then there's an input box, you have to type it, for example India, and then particularly matching site, you have to click on it. So there are two different kind of drop down, one with select tag, one with other than select tag, which does not have select tag. Now let's go to WebdriverIO official documentation. So go to API element, and if you scroll to the bit bottom here, you will have few methods available: select by attribute, select by index, and select by visible text. So these three methods are given by WebdriverIO to handle this kind of drop down. So select by visible text will text, suppose for these drop downs, these are the visible text. Or if you go to your HTML code here, and if you expand this, right, select tag, so whatever you see here, these are visible text. So this method will help you to select the drop-down value by visible text. By index means if you want to select Adobe Design, you have to select 0th 1. If you want to select Android, then 0, 1, 2, 3, 4th index, because index start from the 0. And then we have select by attribute. Now select by attribute, what it does, these are the here, these are the things are attribute available here. So as of now it says value, which is one attribute. You might have another attribute in your drop down, but you can select by attribute. For example, attribute is value, and the value of that is Adobe Photoshop. So let's get into the code and see how we can handle first these normal drop down which has select tag, and then later we will see how we can handle the drop down which does not have select tag. So let's get into the code, and let's create one sample test here. Dropdown.ts. Let's create Mocha describe an it feature handle drop down. Let's write some feature should select drop down value drop down by text. Similarly, we'll create 3 example. So I'll copy this, by text, by index, and by attribute, which 3 methods that we have seen. So let's write the code here. First, we need to open this page. Because we have all 3 is same website, we are going to create a before block. You can write before each, or you can before, I'll write before each, and then open app. I have already explained what is the use of before each in basics of Mocha framework. You can check that video. Arrow function, and then write await browser dot URL, then keep your code URL here, await browser dot max. Let's maximize the window as well. So this is for opening and maximizing the window. Now first let's see how we can handle the drop-down skills. So for the skills, you need to write, whenever you're writing a locator for the drop-down handling, you don't have to write the locator for these values. You have to write the locator for the select tag. So we have an ID here called skills. Let's write this locator. Now where we are going to write the locator, not here but in the page class. Dropdown dot page dot ts class dropdown page. This we have already discussed how to create a page class. Export default new and same as class name. Right, so this is your structure. Now let's write the locator. So what we have to write? Skill dropdown. Get skills dropdown return, and in the single element we are writing this ID. So we have this ID. Now we need to see how we can handle this. Okay, so we'll use this and country as well. Let's do a country also. No, we don't have a country. Let's select a skill only. Now let's call this in our test class here. So how we can call? We have to import it. Now I have done a spelling mistake here. Let me correct it. Drop down. Right. Let's import it. So as soon as I'll start typing drop down, you will see I'm getting auto suggestion here. So you need to say wait drop down page dot skill drop down. Now make sure we already have discussed we have to add .js here, though we have it's a TS file. There's an issue with the WebdriverIO currently while recording this video. While you are watching, you may not have this issue, so try to run without .js. If it works, it's fine. Otherwise, add .js. Now we have to. There are three ways to handle this dropdown. Select by. First, let's select by index. So if you look at the example, this is how you write that code. Your locator, select by visible text and whatever text you want to pass. This is one single code, and this is an example, right? This is an example of it is written. So same way you have to follow. Locator dot select by, and then you have options called visible text. Visible text here, and then what text you want to. We are getting a wait here because we need to add async. So let's add async as well. Forgot. So let's add here as well and here as well. Now visible text, what text you want to select? So for this particular drop down, I want to select Android InDesign, the first one. So let me copy this text because we need to give the exact spelling of this text. I am copying it from the HTML here so that I don't do any spelling mistake. So let's mention this, and just to show whether it's working fine or I'll just add 2 seconds to show you whether this is working fine or not. So this will select by visible text. Now how we can select by, let's check by index. So I have to say dot select by index, and index you have to give based on the 0 1 count. So 0th will be nothing. Select skill, 1 will be Adobe, 2 will be Adobe Photoshop, 3 will be analytics. So let's give 3 0 1 2 3. Third one analytics. So let's give 3. It expects a number, and we have got one more await added. So let's remove this. Right, it will select by index. I'm adding one more browser data pass to show you whether this is working or fine or not. And then the last one, select by attribute. Now select by attribute expects 2 parameters. First is attribute and the second is value. Let's add that. Let's before that, let's remove this multiple drop down. Now first, what attribute you are going to pass? So I'm going to pass the value attribute. So first parameter will be in double quote value, comma, and the what actual value you are passing. For example, I want to select Android. So I'll give Android. And let me give 2 seconds here as well. So let's see, let's understand. This will open the URL. In the first, it will select Adobe Design. In the second, it will select by index 0 1 2 3 analytics, Adobe InDesign, analytics, and then Android. This is what it should select. So let's run this file now. So I'm going to run only this file. To run only this file, we have to specifically mention the name and then run the command npm run wdio. Let's see in the execution how it behaves. So it's loading the URL and maximizing window. Skill Adobe Design selected, analytics selected, Android selected. So yeah, as we have given, right, all three options. First Adobe Design, then second was Analytics, and third was Android. And based on this select visible text, based on the index, and based on the attribute, we are able to select this drop down. So yeah, this is how it's going to be. Now let me remove this browser.post because that was just for demo purpose. Now we have another, this is country. Now this does not have any select tag. If you inspect it here, right, it does not have anything here. It has only like a span, right? It does not have any select tag. So these methods will, or these functions available from the WebdriverIO is not going to work. So you have to write in a very strategic way this. So normally what we do manually when you are trying to select a drop down here, in this case, first you perform click on this, then when text box appear, you click on this text box, search for your text, and whichever is matching, you click on it, right? Let me repeat, click on this drop down, write or type in this, and then perform click on the matching text. Three things we are doing. So we are going to simulate the same thing using normal perform click input and all, and then we are going to handle this drop down. So let's write the locator first for these, because we need to perform click on this. So let's write the locator. We have, let's see what kind of locator we can write. Select to is very generic. Area label say select to country container. It seems something for the country. So let's select this one. So I'm going to write XPath here, //span @ and then this. So it is matching the locator. Let's write this locator in the page class. Get country container. That's how the name is of the locator. So I'm writing in the same way. This is the locator for the container. That means this particular element. Once you perform click on this, then there's the input box where you need to type your text. So let's write the locator for this as well. So input we have, we can use with this type search. So we can say input type search. And this is what it is finding. So let's write get input search input return let me format it. And the last one, once you type your whatever is, for example, I'll type India here. Now, based on your matching input locator, you need to perform click on this. Okay. So now you need to write a locator which is a matching one and then perform click on this. So let's write a locator for this as well. Now you see there's a UL. Sometime what happens, there'll be more than one matching locator. Okay, or the country name. For example, if I type only NY or NE, there is two matching element. One is Netherlands, one is New Zealand. And there you will have some certain, like scenario where you will have some similar, matching drop-down options. So you need to select the exact one. So what you have to do, first you write a locator for the UL and then LI. So I'll say ID, we have ID for this. So let's say ID star ID equal to, this is the ID. Now this is for the UL. Inside that there is, then you have to say /li. Now there's two matching result here with li, but which one you have to select based on the text you are going to pass here, based on the text you want to select. So if you say text equal to, and whatever your desired text, for example, in this case, Netherlands, if I say, then I'll pass the text here, and then it will have only one matching result, and it will select only Netherlands if you select here. So based on the text you pass, it should change. So that means it is going to be your dynamic locator. So now this is an interesting one, dynamic locator, which I'm going to cover in the later video. But for now, let's write it. Let select country, and then return. Now, if you see this Netherlands is hard coded, what if I want to select India? I want to select Nepal or any other country, then this method is not going to work. But when you are writing a code, you should write in a way that it is always, acceptable. Based on a data change, your locator or your code should work, right? So this is hard coded here. We are going to change it. Now, what happens whenever you want to expect something data from the calling function, you need to give a parameter here in this. This is a getter. You can't give a parameter to a getter. You can't give a parameter, for example, country. Now you'll get error here. A getter accessor cannot have parameter. So what we can do in this kind of scenario? So for now, I'll comment this out. Now let's create one public method and we'll create these two as private. Private, and create a default method, select country. Okay, and then this method will expect country name as input parameter. It will be of a string. Now what we need to do, we have written few method here. So first is a container. We have to click on this container. So let's do that. Await this dot country container dot, and to perform click. After clicking here, input box opens. So you need to type in that. So this is await this dot in search input dot set value. Set value the way you can set the value. What value you want to, whatever from the calling function you pass, that you need to set the value. Right? Now, the third thing will be, once you set the value here, based on the matching result, you need to select the particular. Now we have written this locator, but this locator is not going to be dynamic. So what you can do, I'll copy this locator here. And I'm not going to write in a getter. I'll write here itself, const country element, and then paste it here. But now what we can do, instead of this double quote, we need to see below escape key, you have an icon. It's a tilt operator or something it is called. So you need to select that. In your keyboard, below escape key button, this is a symbol. It's not a single quote. It's, I think, a tilt key or something this is called, but it will be in your below escape button of your keyboard. Now what it does basically, instead of writing Netherlands here, now you can replace the value whatever you're passing from here. So how you can replace, you have to say dollar and curly bracket open and close. Now this is highlighted, and then country name. So now what will happen, this locator will become dynamic. Based on the country name you pass here, this locator will change, and then based on that, it will click on that. So now we have to say await country element dot click. Now we have twice this await added. So let's remove this bracket as well. So yeah, this is our method. Now let's delete this. So you just need to understand, this is how there are other ways to write a dynamic locator. Again, I'm going to cover that in the later videos, but for now, use this tilt operator and then use here dollar curly bracket open close, and whatever value you want to replace with, that value will be from the coming from the calling function. So what will happen, it will click on the container, it will type the value, then it will click on the matching element. Now let's call this function in our test. So let's create one more YouTube block. Should select and drop down value without select tag async arrow function. Now here you have to call that function await drop down page dot select country, and country you want to select. So I'll select India. All right. Now you can save this. Now this will select it. Now let's try to run and see. So we already have executed all these three. So let's skip it. We are going to run only this one. Now this is going to fail, and that I'm going to explain what is the reason. But let's try to run this first. So what happens, from my understanding, I have written the code correctly. Look, I need to perform a click on this, then type on this, and then click on the matching value, though it should select. Now, just to show you whether it's working fine or not, we have to add await browser.pause as well. But this is going to fail, and that is expected, which I'll explain. Let's run this now. It's loading, maximizing the window, but you need to see there is a pop-up here, and the country option is hidden. In this particular page, the size which the website was opened was in this state, and if you see, if it was, the pop-up was coming like this, and it was not allowing to select this particular country because this was coming in the middle, this pop-up was coming in the middle, and that is why in such kind of scenario you'll get some error, and it will say intercepted element click intercepted. That means you were trying to click on the select country, but it is in this particular pop-up is intercepting, and it is not, because of that you are not able to select this particular country because of this pop-up. So you might get such kind of scenario when you're writing your code. You might get click intercepted. So you need to figure out what is the reason you're getting in, whether some elements are coming or whether your element is disappearing. In this case, this particular pop-up is coming, and that is why. So what is the solution? One way what I see is, if I can scroll bit down, then this pop-up will not hamper this selection drop-down, right? So what I'll do, I'll write a locator for any element which is in the bottom, for example, this password text box or submit button, and then I'll scroll here. After that, I'll try to enter it. So let me just try to write a locator for this password. So what I'll go to the method which I have created here. Let's write private get password input. Let's write the locator return. This is the locator. Now what I'll do, before performing any click here, I'll say await this dot password input dot. Now if you want to scroll here, right? So how you can scroll in WebdriverIO? You have something called scroll into view. Okay, select that. No, this multiple await. Now what it will do, first it will scroll to this password. So it will scroll here, and then when this will become visible, right? Then it will be able to. So now let's try to run this. And if you look into the error, right, it clearly says element click intercepted. You're trying to click on this, is not clickable at the point. Other element would receive the click, and this is showing the other element is also saying which element is receiving. So always read through your error whenever you're writing code, or whenever you're facing an issue. Now let's try to run this and show whether it is selecting the country India or not. So it's trying to maximize the window. Loading, maximizing, pop-ups come. See it here first, scroll here, and then it selected the country. So it is working all good. It is working perfectly fine. And yeah, that's how it is. So first, just a recap. There is 3 ways to handle normal dropdown with the select tag, that is select by visible text, by index, and attribute. And for that, these will work only when you have select tag. For example, these are the select tag, and they have input options here, right? But there are the drop downs where you don't have select tag. So in that kind of scenario, this is not going to work. So you always, what I have explained here may work for this scenario but not work for your scenario. So you always need to understand how you are handling it manually. I am handling, in this case, clicking on this drop down, then in this input box I'm typing the that data, and then matching element I'm performing the click. The same thing I'm just trying to simulate here. So I'm clicking on the drop down container, then typing the value, and then performing click on the matching element based on the dynamic locator that we are passing. Dynamic locator in the sense, based on the name we are passing, it is performing or it is selecting here, right? So yeah, that's all for this video. Thank you so much.